All right. 5th place, we had Lunar Lads. Predicted placing 5th. Wow. Once again, pat, give yourself a pat. Give yourself a rub.
Oh man,
That was a good one. On this team, we had Lilbo, Taipan, Orkarai, Pug Salad, LT Noodle, and Hasbro. In terms of significant stats, we had Pug Salad drew with a bunch of people with the second highest denies on other people, and Hasbro drew second for the second least getting denied, which again makes sense because I'm pretty sure that Hasbro was the last line for this team.
yes. So
And
Hasbro's the very tall one, right?
yes.
Okay, cool.
So, and like I was saying before, like, you know, a lot of the time it's hard to swap out your last line to go and get bases and stuff. So usually like they'll be the one, but also they'll be the one to get like the dump base earlier if you're being like super like micromanagey about it. So it kind of makes sense that he got clean bases. But then also like as a last line, you're used to the whole phase of discipline. I feel like the last lines of this tournament got the best phase of discipline, right? And you're just applying that same principle like when you're trying to take bases, right? So it kind of makes sense that he wasn't getting denied very often.
I will say off the bat, standout player to me was Hasbro. I think he used his size very well in an anchor role. When he was holding high in blue, it's something we're not used to seeing, and it was very hard to deal with. I thought these guys played blue especially well on T of green. I think he struggled a bit with the turning, but generally very disciplined on T and very hard to get off the back of red. So I think he was a very good anchor for this tournament, especially for a first-time player. And I think he used his size well to be in a more static position, but abuse the height advantage to make it work.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's impressive that he was able to make the T and green work because that was one of the things I really struggled with personally as the last line. I never like even to like the last day I did not get comfy in that green base. It was a rough time. So the fact he was able to make it work is just impressive by itself. Because it was just like there was like 3 massively long sight lines into green that you always had to be like cognizant of as the green last line. Otherwise,
you gotta play it tight in green. You gotta be very disciplined with your senses and know. It's a very experienced player thing of knowing exactly where your sensors are in a 3-dimensional space. So I think a lot of lower tier teams struggled with that too. Yeah, I think these guys made it work well.
Well done to the twins, Pug Salad and LT Noodles, their first comp outside of like SEQ LTA. I definitely took a couple duels against them in games, and they did very well. I'm pretty sure I went like negative in my in terms of my tag ratio against them specifically. I distinctly remember one of them in green sweep ruining my life, so kudos to them. And Lilbo had some like pretty impressive stats here. 1.27 tag ratio average, not in last line. 1.26 score ratio. Decent. Just like all around, pretty damn solid stats. There's no like weak link. I mean, other than getting denied 0.9, that's pretty. That could be better.
I thought Lilbo was very solid. Especially impressive because I think this would be his first comp on not Helios Pro, and one of his first few outside of home arenas. So I thought you especially see it with players that play in a bunch of different places, is how fast a player can adapt is often a very good measure of skill. And I think Lilbo adapted surprisingly fast in this arena. I think Taipan and Orkrai might need to be looking to him for advice on how to play these packs, because I think they they kind of struggled to adapt more than Lilbo did, to be honest. And I think it might just be getting set in the ways of Helios Pro for too long with these guys.
Yeah, potentially. You hear that, Orkrai Taipan? Go ask Lilbo how it's really done. Yeah, I guess in terms of things for this team to improve on in the future, I mean, Because also, so my impression is LT Noodle, Pug Solid, and Hasbro will be joining a team with Butzer at Nationals as a development team, and Eclipse will be like reforming in some fashion. So yeah, there's only so much we can give in terms of the team, but in terms of individuals, was there any significant bits of advice that you'd want to give them?
Um, I thought the Twins were really good at forcing panel play. I really liked seeing them not stand in
Mm.
the open so much. Um,
They've clearly
and I,
watched the Laser Sports Academy paneling video.
yeah. And I'm assuming they pulled it together by the end of the comp, but Taipan and Orkrai were definitely expecting to come up in the open and win duels, which is just not a thing you can do in H2. Very much playing that I'm going to attack your base by reactivating in the open on the baseline, shoot the defender without them shooting me, and then just walk in the base. And I think best case scenario for a decent defender is you're going to double if you reactivate in the open and expect to kill them. So I think it's a bit of a gameplay shift that needs to occur with those two, to be honest. I'm assuming it occurred by finals, but yeah, that was just what I noticed in the early games against them. I'm assuming based on them climbing a bit throughout the ladder, and obviously their stats were still good, so I'm assuming they built on it throughout the competition and adapted.
All right. Well, yeah, I don't have anything particular for these guys. Just, like I keep saying, the teams that get the most exposure to Helios 2, obviously outside of Hobart, and the most exposure to the site are gonna be the ones that really cash in come nationals time. So I hope to see all of these players back again. Yeah, we'll move on to the fourth place team, Rampage. That's the second team that did not get a photo done. I was pretty happy with these photos. This little drawing I did as well. I could have come up with something for Polchrome because I was like, I googled Polchrome and then like nothing came up, and I was like, whatever. I'll just put him as a dude, and then I was like, well, I can't do anything for Zam either, but he's a pretty small fella, so I'm just gonna put him underneath Spider. um, anyway, this was the next big mover of the comp, so I'm pretty sure in terms of place, like predicted placing versus finished placings, Rampage and Can't Phase are like swapped. So on this team, Spider, Zam, Sadlamp, Princess, Polchrome, Wildcard. In terms of significant stats, Spider had the best tag ratio of the comp, 1.82. Who's surprised? Not me. Had the second best GRC. Wildcard got the best. I think Drew with maybe one or two other players that in terms of like an average of 0 denies on them, which is pretty crazy, especially considering Fraser shots and stuff. And Princess like also had like a very good like just not getting denied. Yeah. Do you wanna start off talking about this team?
I'm not gonna lie, I think we actually only versed them once.
Really?
But I think their strategy was very interesting. They really seemed to hone their craft of their defense early game. Like I hopped on stream one of the games and they were just happily defending while other teams were getting bases. And I think they just really wanted to figure out how to defend in this maze early on. It's a really interesting strategy to just go, who cares about the first day? We're just going to play for Ascensions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you see with Spider's team a lot, is you just do a coin flip, and if it's heads, his team's going to climb 4 places in finals. Because it's literally been 50-50. Rumble, they didn't. Bendigo, they didn't. Darwin, they did. This Predats, they did. They just climb massively. And I think, they definitely are a team that seems to play for Ascensions, which is a really funny strategy that I think you could abuse the system a little bit by just not caring about the first few days and just literally just practicing the things you need to practice for finals. And then wheeling them out and going, hey, this is the only day that actually matters. Now we're going to exploit it. So yeah, I think these guys played it very interesting.
In terms of strategy, so my impression was Zam was the captain and the lead attacker and stuff. And he would take people out. I think Spider was like more on the defensive side, like brawling and like field pointing and stuff.
Yeah, from what I
Um,
saw this competition, I think he was playing more of a mid role,
mm.
kind of something we haven't seen Spider play a lot before.
Well, I think Bendigo he did the mid roll as well.
Okay.
Just putting him in a position where he can always be where he knows he needs to be and just shoot people all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean his like 1.82 tag ratio, like as not a last line, like like last few nats, like the best tag ratio has usually been Husky as a last line, which makes sense, right?
Mm.
But like as like not last lines, getting these like super crazy tag ratios is like very very impressive. So kudos to Spider.
Spider was
Um,
one of those players that I think there were a few of them, very few, that picked up the packs and went, "Oh, cool! This is how my phaser needs to operate," and just that innate understanding of, I need to not shoot when they're trying to pre-fire my phaser. I need to keep it behind a wall unless I'm firing. All that stuff. He seemed to pick it up very, very quickly. Um, and I think that's what enabled him to get such high tag ratios and stuff, is because he just innately understood the packs just by picking them up.
mhm. Something interesting he said to me was that when he was taking duels, he was actively thinking about not aiming for anything except the barrel sensor, which
Yeah.
kind of makes sense. Like if someone's taking a duel against in unit, like say they're like a big guy, they turn side onto you, and like you can barely see any of their sensors. Their barrel sensor has to face you at some point if they want to shoot you. So it kind of makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. When our back sensors, while we were having issues with our back sensors, I trained purely to shoot the barrel sensor. Literally
Yeah.
nothing else, because I'm like, they're gonna take their front and shoulders away. Backs are cooked. I'm just gonna go phaser. And I think having that experience of just going, no matter what, I'm gonna hit their gun is really, really helpful. Even when other sensors do open up.
Yeah, that's definitely something like when I was in last line, I didn't like because I was in last line for most of the comp. I didn't take a lot of duels in the open, so I didn't like really get a chance to delve into that. But definitely, like next pre-nats, I'm gonna make a point of like the only thing I'm allowed to shoot is a barrel sensor and see how it goes. Because I think it's that might be one of the things that really like
You,
is like a game changer.
it definitely is good for a while. Once you start versing experienced players, you'll find, and as the meta of these packs develops, you'll find every time someone reactivates, they're going to move their barrel sensor, like they're going to transition or something, and it just ruins that shot you take on them. Like, barrel sensor shots at the moment when people are reactivating are currently only working because people aren't used to dodging their phaser, but the
Mm.
phaser is the easiest thing to dodge. So as soon as people start getting used to that and the meta develops, I think we will start seeing, you go back to like trying to aim for backs and
Just
chests
like
and stuff.
standard stuff. Well, you
Yeah,
never aim for backs. I mean,
I did.
even outside of the problems we had at Hobart with the back sensors, I swear every time I play LOR, the back sensors are just cooked. Maybe I just suck, but I have so many times where I'm like
Uh,
having a bloody panic attack because I'm hitting backs and they're not
I
registering.
mean, I think the thing about back sensors is they're just a giant piece of plastic for a relatively low amount of sensors in
Mm.
comparison to other sensors that we're used to. So I think the general understanding of packs is back sensor is always going to be hardest, and you need to hit it right. You can't just hit the
Mm.
sensor and expect it to work. Yeah.
Um. Anyway, bit of a
Yep.
tangent there, but I guess do we have a standout player on this team? I mean, there's an obvious pick, obviously, but
Yeah. I mean, I think Zam really came into his own this tournament as well. I really like seeing the Zam in game captain because it really frees up Spider to do his thing and not
yeah,
have to think about the game all the time. And I think Zam's a really smart player that Spider out of game captain, Zam in game captain, it works amazingly for their team. So I really like seeing that, and I thought Zam was doing really well to keep. Like his tag ratio is mad, especially for an attacking player.
yeah, as a captain as well, especially
Yeah,
like.
he crushed at this comp.
Well, kudos to Rampage, Spider's team once again climbing a ridiculous amount on the last day. Um,
Yeah, solid,
yeah.
solid tag ratios and stuff across the board. Like
Mm.
they were solid all around.
Do you what? So I my impression is we'll see mostly the same team. in future competitions. Do you have any advice for them specifically?
It's tough. I don't think I saw them enough to speak on it too much. I talked to Wildcard a bit about how he's paneling. I actually told him to watch Church on like how to play green tea a little bit. It's really interesting. There's a few players that can play in the open without panels and know where their sensors are, and Church is one of them. So I try to direct people, hey, look at how she stands when she's in the open, and it's one of the things I stole from my gameplay, because I stole a bunch of different gameplay aspects from a bunch of different people. And yeah, the way that Church stands in the open is very important to getting all your sensors as far away as possible while still seeing the game. So yeah, that's just a very minor thing. I think these guys probably just need more experience just doing whatever, just focus like sending Polychrome and Wildcard out on attack and just seeing how they go and just letting them develop their game sense more probably.
Yeah, I don't have much advice for them either. Like the games we had against them were all like relatively close, I think. They didn't do anything drastic or anything crazy that like we were like that definitely lost you the game. It was just maybe us making decisions quicker. Maybe I don't know, just the little things. So I think this team would just really benefit from just playing more. And also, as I keep harping on about, if they can get to pre-nats 2 and 3, by the time Nats comes around, they're going to be a very, very definitely top 10 team. Like
yeah,
just 100% top 10. Trying to get to that top prestigious top 5, I reckon, if they can pull it together.
I think they got top 10 in Darwin with a jank team, so I think these guys can push really hard and be consistently up there if they keep on training, which I know they will.
And they have Helios Pro at home, so maybe doing the whole like, I don't know how much merit there is, but rather than playing normal Helios Pro where the sensors like kind of hidden, like having
I like the idea of that sort of training.
All right, moving along. We now cracking into the top 3, the final teams. In third place, we had Aftershock. Predicted third. Well done. In terms of significant stats, that was something I noticed when I was doing this. I was like, none of us like really had any crazy stats. It was all just like, even our tag ratio was like leaves something to be desired as a whole. The only like one that was significant in terms of like top 3 was like Mikey just didn't get denied very much. Yeah, so we had myself, Fuggan, Mikey, Beefy, and Jesse. In terms of the roles we played, Fuggan was the captain, everyone. Listen up. Fuggan was the captain. He will be captaining probably the next few tournaments as well. Mikey was playing more of like a mid position, like, trying to be in field pointing spots, like supporting the attackers, like a sudden third man and stuff. Beefy was like the second last, like always like on the door, just locking that down one side. I was playing last line the whole tournament, and Jesse was our opening batsman. And generally like for most of the part spent most of his games like not at defense. Yeah, in terms of, I guess, looking at the stats, like our base destroyers average was like we all had pretty much the same within like 0.1, which is interesting. I think that might be a lot to do with like how many dumps we came against. So there was like heaps of games where all 5 of us got 1 base.
Interesting.
Which makes a lot of sense.
I mean, you guys were also doing your like blitz attacks, specifically focusing 1 base though, like rotating all 5 of your players through the base that you can shift your weight to, though, right?
I mean, the goal wasn't to get all 5 specifically. It was usually like it was triggered by, okay, that just happened. Let's go and try and let's try and balance that out. Like they just got a base. Let's just try and like get another base like straight away, so that like to try and keep everything level. There's games where like a team gets a base and you kind of just let it slide, and you're like, cool. I think they get another base, and you're like, well, that's going to be a bit harder to. Oh, they got a 3rd base, and now when you're at that point, and it's like so hard to climb back. So I guess the idea was to try and not let teams get so far away on base average. Which for our team normally we usually have very good field pointing, and we like our defense is really good. Like we usually don't drop very many bases. I think the last few nights we've had like some of the lowest average scores in like the top teams. But we've struggled getting bases. Outside of myself, obviously. But I think that we kind of like the script kind of like switched where like we were getting, usually we were up on bases or we were even on bases, but we were like, it was our field points that were letting us down. So that's definitely going to be the focus for us in the next couple tournaments, is really figuring out how we can maximize our field points, like no matter what game state we're in, because that was something we consistently were like down on, was field points. Yeah. Well, Runt, like what you versed us quite a few times. What have you got to say?
I really liked your shifting the weight to one team's base. Like you guys would just go, oh, we're zeroed, and just like send a whole bunch of players in one direction. Like it was something we had to be very aware of, especially versing you guys when we were green and you guys were red. You'd just send a lot of players down that right side, and we'd be like, okay, get prepared for it, it's coming. So I like the lightning attacks. I really do, and just being able to shift your weight in this maze to the base that's closest and really focus that door makes it really hard for the defenders. So I really liked that. It's just, I mean, I'm not too sure what was happening by finals, but I think a lot of you guys surprised me how much you guys were taking duels in the open. I thought you guys were going to be one of those Nexus players that like really always on a wall, always forcing us to come to you, really making it difficult to get those tags on you guys, sorry. But I think, I'm not sure if it was just so many things going on and adjusting to H2 and stuff, but I think there was a lot of dueling in the open, which is perhaps why the pack scores struggled and the tag ratios dropped a fair bit. Was just not prioritizing that cover enough and trying to do the Helios Pro way of playing for a little bit. So that's probably one of the things to improve on, I reckon. But apart from that, I think,
Come on, roast the shit out of us.
Yeah, you guys are holding a 5-man D a lot. Often letting the other two teams trade bases a bit, putting you guys off to the back foot and immediately. So if you let the other two teams get each other's bases, then you're screwed. Like, and you gotta try and attack after that, and then you're attacking over the top of other attacks. I think a bit more proactiveness from you guys probably. Trying to be the team that gets the first base, because it kind of sounds like you were describing constantly being at a base deficit and trying to be okay with that. But I think you gotta be a bit more proactive and get those bases first. So yeah, I don't know. Were you guys running 4-1s, 5-man Ds? What were you guys, 3-2s off the bat? What were you guys
It was mainly 3-2s off the bat, and then we were making adjustments based on what everyone else was doing. But I guess it was in general a very like reactive style of play versus a proactive one, which might have been what
that does make sense, because you guys have always been a very reactive team, I recall. Like in Bendigo, you guys would always sort of just chill, and then you'd be very good at reacting to stuff in Bendigo, and I think it worked very well there. But I think maybe Hobart's a bit of a maze where proactiveness is key.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might also say to Jesse to adjust his phaser grip. It looks like it's kind of playing a bit kind of rifleman-y, and a lot of the times you could skip to a panel and he kind of just couldn't really contort himself properly to get that gun around. And yeah, that's just a very minor, small thing I saw. But yeah.
Who was your standout player from the team then?
I'd say you on defense. You're one of the few people that you're one of the few people that actually had the phaser discipline to not go, oh, he's trying to bait me, I'm not going to shoot him. Whereas pretty much everybody else is like, lights. Oh, my phaser got shot. So that was good to see. But yeah.
I had some very interesting moments in last line, specifically at red, because like red, I was playing on the V, and you're like pretty far away from the doors. There was so many times where like I would just be sitting there, and someone like there was times where literally people would run from one side of the door to the other, like spamming shots at my phaser as they go through, and I just wasn't shooting them. And I was
Exactly,
like,
and
"Oh, I'm
uh,
still alive."
and that's really what you need. So yeah, no, I liked seeing that on the last line is really adapting to the H2 playstyle of just be patient. You can just chill. They're gonna die eventually, and if they're not a threat, don't bother shooting them.
Hmm.
Um,
CV shouted out Fuggen. Did you see Fuggen in there much? Probably not. You guys always would have been like not in the same place.
I saw him a bit in finals, but yeah, I think you guys were having a bit of a rough time by that point.
We were. It was struggle town. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. That first game, we were like, all right, we're pretty even on bases. Jesse wasn't sure if he got blue or not. Turns out he didn't. And then and then we were like, but I feel like the field points weren't there, and that was the understatement of the century. We were like 10k down or something, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that was
Um,
rough. That was a rough one.
I think it's very important, and something I'll probably touch upon more later is you can get some decent field points from sniping, but you really got to send players into the action if you want proper field points in this maze.
Mm,
And they've got to be really solid players that can keep the tag ratios up
yeah,
in rough situations. And I don't know, I think sending Jesse into there, he's not a bad player, especially for how long he's been playing, but like, you kind of are just sending him into the meat grinder and go, come on, get us some pack points while you're just getting railed by three people
yeah.
at defense.
I guess that is something to point out. Is a lot of this. So Jesse previously has been a last line kind of like specialist. Like obviously he's got good fundamentals and stuff, but his main comfy place was last line. But we didn't know we were going to have Jesse like permanently or not. But we were like, well, this would be a great opportunity for him to develop the rest of his skill set. So we had him in the more offensive, brick walling, attacking type positions, just to try and like help develop his skill set. So yeah, there's definitely times where he's saying he was like really struggling with being in those positions because he's not used to it at all. But hopefully he'll take I'm sure he's got one of the best attitudes, I reckon, in Adelaide in terms of like how he deals with losses. And like I was saying, he's like a super nice guy. Like you shoot him, he's like, no, sure. You deny him like for the 6 times in a row, he's like, nice deny. He's got a really, really good attitude. So I know he's gonna take a lot from this tournament with us and apply it with the adrenaline guys.
Yeah, no,
Who we might see at a free nuts.
I think you guys, the showing that you guys put forth at Prenats 1 was very much reflective of focusing on development, which I think is a really smart thing to do at Prenats 1. So I'm really keen to see how this builds up to nationals for all the players that have been on your team for this one.
We'll have Chudge back, and she'll be free to go loose, and then maybe I'll be set free from last line as well. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, sounds good.
Any last things for Aftershock?
I don't think any more from me.
Happy days. Yeah, wicked. On to second place. We have Sunshine Coast Isotopes. Final placing second. Predicted placing second. How good. We had Madcans, Leak, Peregrine, Shock, Cyrex, Mopar. Significant stats. Shock and Madcans weren't getting denied very much. Got like third best. Drew with a bunch of people. Shock, second best denies. Drew with a couple other people. And Cyrex also like third best denies. Drew with a bunch of people. Yeah. Right off the bat, like we versed this team quite a lot. We had games where our defense was able to really well hold out like their attack, and those were the games we won against them. And then there was games where they absolutely steamrolled us. And they just like went through our base like butter. And then like their defense, like whenever we went there, was always super, super solid. Like Peregrine throughout the comp like had very high tag ratios. And by the end he had 1.48. So he was doing very well on the bases. The door defenders were doing very well for like comms and like just winning duels and stuff. There's some pretty damn good tag ratios in there. And it always felt, whenever I verse these Mad Cans teams, it always feels like they have 6 players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's always like one more person than you would expect. Like,
somehow three people always rock up at your base, and their base doesn't drop. It was like they've got 3 defenders back there. I know it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have. I don't know. They have they got something going on. some voodoo magic, because I swear they have 6 players on those Mad Cans teams. I don't know how he does it. I think it's a lot of like when they're in that field pointing state, there's some teams like to opt to keep the last line in the base as like an insurance policy, but then the teams that like are confident in their field pointing structure and like their ability to crunch home and stuff will make use of that last line when they don't have anything at home. And I think that's probably where like that feeling like there's always like one more person than you would expect doing stuff. But I'm sure you verse these guys a lot as well. Give us your thoughts.
These guys had really cool sort of those blitz strategies of they were generally playing 4-man D with Cans just running around attacking. And essentially any times Cans would get a kill and the defense wasn't pressured, anytime he'd kill someone on the door, 2 more players would run in behind him to help him get that base. So it's just they really watch him super closely from those push positions on defense, and as soon as he gets any leeway on that base, they just put heaps of pressure on it to make sure it goes through, which is a really good way to get early bases. But I think in the games where Cans was getting shut down, they struggled a lot, which is why you kind of saw them dropping to some teams which you wouldn't expect them to drop to.
Yeah, I think in general they were one of the teams that were field pointing the best. Hence like the good tag ratios, but also hence their relatively low and even like base destroy average. Like no one got more than 1 and they're all pretty even, which kind of makes sense. They're going to be as high as second place and they're not getting a lot of bases. It's kind of like it means they were field pointing really well, right? So This is definitely one of the teams throughout the comp where I was trying to pay attention to how they were field pointing to try and pick up stuff. Yeah, like you were saying, like with these Madcans teams, it's like there's one person, you're like, oh, here we go, he's just gonna stick around for ages, and then suddenly there's like 3, and they've gotten your base, and you're like, oh, well that sucks. Let's go get there. Oh no, they're all home now. They're very disciplined in terms of like crunching home and stuff. It's really hard to catch them out with less than 3 people at their base. Despite how aggressively they like push up and field point and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have a standout player for you on this team?
Link was the other player for me that picked up the packs and went, cool, I'm already better than all the Hobart players at managing this phaser. It's like, yeah, cheers, Link. So he just picked it up, able to throw that thing around like mad, does not get shot in the gun, not at all. Really good on these packs, and picked up the proactive base defense instantly. I remember the training game with these guys, I'm just like, where the hell is Link? He's in a different spot every time I enter that base, and he kills me every time because of it. So yeah, I think Link was the player that adapted to these packs the best, from what I saw. These guys were a pretty solid team, but weren't quite as threatening as you would have expected. I think they're still playing the 4-1 strategy, and they're playing it very well. And they had a lot of very interesting blitz attacks, but I'm not sure 4-1 is the way to go in Hobart. So I think they were kind of struggling to find a strategy that really worked, especially since their 3-2s didn't seem developed enough to be ready for the game to break open.
I don't really have a standout player for these guys, because like for me, like when I was last learning, there would be like no one, and then there's like 3, and I'm like, all right, whatever. Like I don't even know who's who. There's just 3 of them. And then when I was defending, there was like 4 there, and I'm like, okay, all of these people are collectively ruining me right now. I guess Madcans like pretty reliably was getting me out of like blue base at least. I wasn't very comfy in blue base, but he was getting me out of blue base very often. So
interesting.
Do you have any specific advice for this team? Obviously,
I think
we probably won't see the same team, at least not at nationals. We might see them at another pre-nuts, but yeah.
I think it's kind of a message to all players at Hobart. These guys were the best team at going 0 players. We're going to push to these really good sniping spots, and we're going to make sure the getting to these sniping spots is the most important priority in the game. And they're doing that really well, but the thing about sniping spots in this maze is they feel amazing because you can keep tags constantly ticking over, but to get actually good pack points in this maze, you need to be in the action. And I don't think they usually had enough players actually in that action. I constantly say the best way to get pack points in this maze is to just sweep defenses. Anytime you kill an anchor, anytime you kill an outside defender, there's a 50% chance the anchor's watching the wrong way. So they're going to be a free kill 50% of the time. And then as soon as you kill an anchor, 2 people come running in the other door, and they're just 2 more free kills. So it's really, really hard to do, but if you can just sweep bases, put yourself in the action, often between 2 other teams, it sucks. But if you've got a good player that can do it, that's how you get your actual insane pack scores in this maze, I think.
I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that when we talk about the someone that decided to hog all of the best individual stats.
Yeah.
Did you have any last bits for this team?
Yeah, I think just really good at pushing to sniping spots because they look good in Hobart, but sniping spots aren't the way to win in Hobart, is the important takeaway for all teams.
All right. Good to know. All right, we'll move on to our last team of the night. Who'd have guessed it? Hobart Vikings. Placed first, predicted first. We had CV was missing on this photo, so I've drawn him in. We had Runt, Twinkle, CV, Leper, Gandhi, and Karen. No particular standout players, nothing significant because the solar ladder stats and stuff. So I think that's all we have to say about this team. No, okay. Obviously, Runt absolutely reamed everyone this tournament. Decided to get the best stats for everything except second best tag ratio, and did get denied like a little bit. We had Twinkles had the third best base destroys average, which didn't surprise me at all. Gandhi had the third best tag ratio, and also didn't get denied like ever, literally ever. And Leper got denied not very often as well. So, well, it's your bloody team, so you should probably talk about them.
I don't know, we shot stuff. It's tough to talk about your own team when you're doing it. This was, I think, the main thing that made us good this tournament that we've been missing in all previous tournaments, and it gets discussed but probably not enough, is we actually had 3 teams we could train with this year going into this competition. So we've actually been able to play team games for the first year ever. So we've got a solid B team and a solid C team, which means that we can actually play team games consistently. Every year before this has been once a year we assemble everyone we know to play that one night of team games before nationals. But this year we've been like training team games like once a week at least. So it's just been so good to actually play games and go, oh, here's how we react in this scenario. Here's how we react in this scenario. Here's the best strategy in this maze. Here's what works here and what doesn't work here. So just having those archangels and hellspawn in with us is really what's been bumped us up another level, I think.
Rising tide lifts all ships, stuff like that. Well, we have to elephant in the room. What were you doing? What were you doing as an individual player? Because that was crazy.
I was playing that role of getting pack points, because pack points are the way to win in this arena. So myself and Twinkles, it'd usually be, our job was to get pack points, and that was our main priority. And anytime we saw a base opportunity, we'd make sure that we're the ones to hit the opportunity. We made sure that we were the proactive ones in the game. So essentially, anytime so we're just playing that sort of 5-man D, getting pack points and all that stuff. But as soon as it shifts, any team tries to shift an attack out, we want to be at their base, hitting their base with an attack before they're hitting ours. So it's really just a game about control and knowing where the opportunities are. And as soon as we see that opportunity, we're jumping straight on it to attack that base to make sure that we're the ones with the base lead, not in the deficit. Sometimes that wouldn't pan out, so we just had to rely on our pack points, but it's homemade, so you know where to get pack points. And essentially, we just kept putting ourselves in the middle of it. A lot of teams were doing more 5-man Ds. We were just going, well, we're going to do a 3-man D, and Twinkles and I are going to go over there and die a bunch, but hopefully bring a lot of kills in throughout the way. So yeah, it was literally just about being in the action for me. Never shying away from a scenario where there's just 15 people, because that's where you need to be to win the pack game. I didn't spend as much time sniping as players would expect. I was just there whenever I saw stuff. I'm like, I want to be in the middle of that. And the most important thing there is you spend that 8 seconds of your death so wisely, so that you never become a free kill. So you're going sightlines to here, here, and here, and here. Where's the safe spot? It's here. If I reactivate here, I'm safe for that 1 second, and that's all I need to actually bring in all the tags around me. But yeah, and it's just like, if you do kill an outside defender and you kill an anchor, the tags will just come running to you from both teams. Everyone wants to go, oh crap, the base is broken. Run, 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 get those denials. And it's like, I'm not even here to shoot your base. I just want the tags that come along with it. So yeah.
Yeah, there's something to be said about the skill of using your deactivation time wisely, because I think for a lot of people, they die and their brain just like turns off for 8 seconds.
Yeah.
that's like it's what it looks like happens, or like not turn off, but just like not making conscious good decisions, just kind of like on autopilot, like, and you end up, and then like suddenly you've died 3 times in a row, and and then they're like, oh, I should probably like not do that, and then they like snap out of it or whatever. But yeah, if you can be doing that every time you die, that's like a really important skill. Yeah, geez. I just wanted to say, one time you and Runt were attacking our base. You and Twinkles were attacking our base, and Twinkles got like a very, very, very nice phaser shot on me. So I think I was doing pretty good for my phaser shot discipline. And so what it was is he was on the, I guess you would call it, left of red, like the one closest to the entrance.
Yep.
Yeah, he was there. He was dueling Mikey, and he was dueling him in the open, so like I could see him. And then I was like, oh, that's a free kill. And then like I waited for him to activate, and then I went to shoot him in the back. But in that time, he shot Mikey, and then instantly like turned and like pre-fired like where my phaser was going to be, and he killed both of us in like half a second and got the base like straight away. And I was like, that was super clean. He knew exactly where he knew exactly what he was doing.
His phaser shots are nuts. Like, he pumps me in phaser shots anytime. Like, Elim, I kept on trying to shoot his gun, and he just got like 15 stuns on me in a row. And I was like, he just pummels people's guns so well. He knows exactly where you're gonna peek him, and he'll get him every time.
Yeah, that was the last time I'm ever gonna try and shoot someone taking a duel on the door. I'm just gonna let him do it. I'm like, whatever. I don't want to get my bloody thing shot.
Yeah.
That was like a face palm moment for me. I was like, oh. I think that was finals as well, and that was like within a minute, and we dropped the first base of the game, and I was like, well, that sucks.
Half of the time he's getting into bases, he'll literally just walk into the open and just shoot your gun. It's like, he doesn't dive. He just walks out and shoots your gun. It's so frustrating to first. He'll probably do some dumb dodging while he's doing it, which just makes it feel even worse for you. But yeah, I think this comp, he just got in people's heads so well by shooting their guns wherever they put them. Yeah. I think
that was definitely a thing I started doing quite a bit, was just like thinking about like someone's in like deep in a base, and I'm thinking about nothing else but trying to hit their phaser. And so like it started off, people would like pre-fire, like, you know, as soon as you lunge or as soon as they activate, they'll like pre-fire, try and get your phaser. But then people started holding shots, so people started doing stuff where like they would activate outside the base and they would hold their own shots.
Yeah.
And then just like, you know, I think there's a little bit of luck, because like, you know, you could shoot like 0.1 of a second too early or 0.1 of a second too late. But that was pretty funny whenever that happened. Like, you're like just completely outside of a base, you're just T-posing outside the base, you activate and you just go, there's your phaser.
It's a fun game of trying to get into the opponent's head. But no, the rest of this team though, like, this was very much our whole team coming together for this comp. This is like the comp where it felt like we're really solid on all our roles. Like Leper and CV, putting them outside the door, amazing. They're insane at brawling. People don't get through them, and especially don't get through them without a comp. They make it bloody difficult for anyone trying to reactivate anywhere near them. Yeah. And then Karen and Gandhi both really solid anchors. So like, anytime someone was saying I can't hold T, it's like kind of just look at Gandhi and Karen. Like Gandhi's not a tiny person. He's like well over 6 foot, and he can hold T and spin around without getting shot.
Yeah.
So I do understand there's issue there, and we're gonna change the base to make it a bit more forgiving. But like for Prenats 1, it was like, well, look at how Gandhi and Karen play. It's definitely doable. You can hold those anchor spots, and Gandhi especially would never die to one player. It was so nice just being able to go like, see ya, mate. There's only one attacker. You got this. I'm gonna go right away.
Nice. Well, yeah, kudos to Gandhi and Karen. Obviously, like a team's success is not just based like at the highest levels, not just based on like either your defense or your attack being effective. It's like both being effective. So they've obviously done like an extremely good job holding the line and making sure you don't drop too many bases. And I mean, like Gandhi had a very, very, very good tag ratio. So well done.
Wait,
well done to them.
did you give me silver and him bronze, even though we had the same tag ratio?
Oh yeah, I don't know how I messed that
I
up.
appreciate that, but cop that, Owen.
Well, okay, I can't change it now. I don't know how I missed that. My bad. Sorry, Gandhi. You had the second best tag ratio of the comp with run.
Oh man, that's good.
I don't know what the third one would be. Hold up. Let's find
Yeah.
it. 1.6, 1.45.
What did you see from versing us though?
Versing you guys. Look, like obviously I saw not very much because I was never really in field pointing positions. I only like saw you guys when you came to the base. Usually got it and then left. So yeah, it's just that we were just trying to like pick up on like where you guys were field pointing and like how you were doing it, because every game it was just like bloody truckloads of it coming in, like just so yeah, I don't know, just like you said, just field pointing like well all the time. You know, obviously you and Twinkles had the first and third best bases, so getting bases helps. Yeah, it's kind of hard to give any criticism for a team that didn't lose a single game, right? Yeah, I don't really have much to say. There was a couple games where it looked like people got close to beating you, but you were always able to pull through. Yeah, from being in last line, I didn't actually see much of like what was happening. I would just see like usually you or Twinkles rock up to the base, get it most of the time, and then you would leave. And that was my whole experience with your team personally. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll have a lot more to say next time, I think.
Sounds good. Nah, I think in preparation for Prenats 2, we're gonna put Gandhi and Karen in a lot more of those like attacking roles, because like we played a game where we took Karen out, for example, and like we were trying stuff like that throughout the comp. But they're at a level where they can like solidly anchor in defendants finals, but they're not quite there to be able to do it competition ready in proper games, I would say. So we're just going to try and get them super competition ready in all roles come nationals, I think.
And that's definitely like a thing that separates like the best teams from the not best teams, is like how fleshed out their roster is in terms of people being able to fill the roles. Like obviously you've got your opening roles, and it's smart to have everyone in their best role at the start, but if the attack goes well, that person has both bases. There's no point in them being out anymore a lot of the time, so they need to swap with someone. So yeah, that's definitely a good idea. It's something like Aftershock's done a lot, is just making a point of trying to give everyone even amount of time, because we have our best positions, but trying to flesh out everyone everywhere, so that no matter who gets swapped with who, everyone knows what's happening and everyone's comfy in any position.
And we're hoping kind of by doing that we can do some more complex strategies, like those blitz attacks. I want to learn how to do those with our team. Like they looked sick.
That'd be scary if like you Twinkles and CV rock up at a base suddenly. That'd be some scary stuff.
Yeah, like it's something I tried to get working in training, but we were just kind of like, okay, competition's coming soon. We need to be prepared to play the winning strategy straight up, like, and play it well. So I think we're at a point. I would have loved to get rolled this comp. I said it before we got in. I would have loved to get rolled to find those glaring weaknesses, but we kind of just have to guess what they're going to be, which is going to be those when all our roles gets flipped around and teams are doing these complex strategies that we're not adapted to. So we're going to try and hopefully learn some of our own. Hopefully all our players get developed in all our roles, all that good stuff. So hopefully by nationals we can play more than one strategy.
You guys have got this. Very excited to see, yeah, how the team progresses over the next few tournaments and stuff. And I mean, with a showing like this, like it's going to be hard to not see you guys in finals. So very bloody cool.